Who's wrong and who's wronger? In this corner, followed by millions, James the Exploding Unicorn Breakwell. And in that corner, ignored by millions, Steve Dash Rinko Leavers.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wrong and Wronger, where we have redundancy to match our redundancy. James, Breakwell, and I bring you this show every week, sort of. James, something again melted down last week. What is happening on your end?
It was on every end. It was a triple failure. So you, first of all, you could no longer, you couldn't, well, all failures originate with you, let's be honest. So first of all, you lost the call. Like, I was talking and you couldn't hear me. And so you hung up.
That's right.
And then at the exact same moment, somehow, without any additional inputs, my video recording failed. And then I went and thought, well, at least I bought a separate audio recorder, and it won't be as nice, but it's like, at least I got that to still go through.
Yeah.
And that also failed. It recorded nothing. I was dumb. I didn't even know where to go from there. So today, I am using a completely different video recording program. I have given up on the other software. I still have the same audio recorder device because I bought it and can't return it. So it is what it is. So we will see if maybe, just maybe, for once, an episode actually gets recorded and makes it up on air.
And by the way, the phone disconnecting is a complete separate system from your video program. So the fact that those two things happen simultaneously is like there was a sunburst or something, and it took out all the electromagnetic fields on Earth or something. It had to be.
At this point, we have to have almost as many episodes that haven't aired as episodes that have aired. Like, just the lost content that will never be heard or observed by anybody. It's truly astonishing what kind of a non-existent back catalog we have of non-existent episodes.
I will say that the first several times this happened, it was depressing because they were excellent episodes. Last week, you were just mediocre, James. I got to be honest with you. Yeah,
I was riding high. Did you post that 10 Minutes to Save Your Marriage where you praised me as brilliant and groundbreaking? Please tell me.
Yes, if you sent it last week, I did post it.
As long as we got that one up, as long as we have that on the record forever, then you know what we can lose. I do feel like we lost one of our best episodes ever, which was the one where we talked about how you used to work in greeting card porn. And then we lost one of our worst episodes ever, which was last week. I've got a pig over there chewing on a box. Hold on. You go ahead and talk to the crowd for a second. I'm going to go shoe a swine.
All right. And I know that James can hear me even though he can't talk while he's chewing a swine, which is, don't take that in the worst way possible because it's probably correct. I will say I have right here what is that? He's actually chewing that swine. Oh, I'm sorry. It sounded like a swine being chewed. I have here, James, in front of me, and you can't see this, but you will on the mix, that I have a Victory cigar that should have been smoked pre-episode. I was actually planning to smoke it while we were recording this, except I made a grave mistake, and my audiobook is not being launched today. I haven't told the author yet because I've been laying low, James, but... all of this publishing stuff and platforms and distributors see, you've got it easy because you're a big star. You're a high roller. So they send a limo to your house and they bring you to Geffen's recording studio in Hollywood, California. And you walk up and they're like, oh, hello, Mr. Breakwell. What can we do for you? Because you're balling, James, you understand? Me,
okay.
I got to do all this stuff myself. And it's a tremendous amount of work. And then I do one thing wrong yesterday and everything comes to a dead standstill until it gets corrected. But the audiobook for Beat the Odds by Sandy Gennaro and Steve Olivas will be out come hell or high water by next week.
So what did you screw up this time?
Well, I get antsy, James. You know me. I want progress to keep moving because when I do things, you're like me. When you do things, stuff gets done. And it gets done in a very deliberate and very accurate way. when other people are supposed to do their job, everything grinds to a halt. And so this audiobook thing, everything I do quickly, and everything everyone else does, like every other book that I write, it just takes forever. So I get antsy. And so I'm screwing around with like, you have to name different things to help them market your book. And one of the things is like hashtags. One of them is which categories your book falls into. And I decided to add a few categories yesterday, because I thought, well, as long as I'm sitting here doing nothing, waiting for other people to do their stuff, I might as well make it easier on myself to make some money. So I added a few categories, and apparently that requires the entire thing to start over, and I'm going through quality check again, even though I have already passed quality check. And my fear, James, because you know me and us, that they'll find something wrong the second time it goes through quality check. Like, I feel like I dodged a bullet the first time, and now we got to go through the whole thing again. It's going to take a few days.
Well, obviously, any project you're involved with is not going to be high quality. So, I mean, that's a given. So, evidently, the first time they were just asleep at the wheel and it slipped through. And now justice will be done. So, it's fitting that they're going to bounce you out of there.
Yeah, I need to have your gig where you just sit back and you've got like, you don't just have a person doing a pedicure for you. You have one person per toe working on you. And then you fire one or two of them at random just so the other ones are afraid to keep their jobs, and you have them do your bidding. I like that kind of setup, James. And I know you've worked not very hard to get there, but just hard enough that I still haven't quite reached that pinnacle. But I'll get there sooner or later. I want 10 pedicurists.
Do you want to know what it's really like to record an audiobook? Would you like the insider scoop on what megastar James Breakwell goes through to record his multi-thousand selling books? So, okay, so for one, most of my books have been recorded in a former Mason's Lodge, like an audio company bought it, and they did. It's actually very nice, but it's a former Mason's Lodge, and I'm down in the basement in the small studio because I'm not a large band. I'm just one person.
Yeah.
And it's me and an audio engineer who's bored out of his mind on the other side of some glass. And it's me reading from my book, and they always book 2 sessions. And I always say, don't do that. I'm not coming back. I'm going to do this all one go. And I sit down, and I read my book cover to cover out loud in one day. And mind you, it takes a while because every time I flub a line, I have to start over.
Yes.
And usually I'll say, starting over. Well, at least I did in the earlier books. This last time I just started over and they just assumed. And then that poor audio engineer, after sitting there for 5 or 6 hours listening to me read this book straight through with all the stumbles, has to go back in and edit out all the stumbles.
Yep.
Like, most of their costs are just like psychiatric care for these poor people. They've got to get them all drugged up just so they can get through the day. They have to have a full liquor cabinet. I mean, I can't even imagine. It takes me, 6 hours or 8 hours to read this book, and it takes them probably 3 weeks to go out and edit out my many, many flaws. But the point is, after one day, my job is done. And usually, on the first few books, they have me come back for pickups, to fix things I screwed up even on the second or third time. This last time, they didn't do that. So either I've gotten better at redoing my mistakes myself, or they've just given up. And they've just said, he's just a broken recorder. It's not going to get any better. Just leave it how it lies.
James, do you want to know how I record an audiobook?
I'm guessing step one is sit down in your bathroom.
Oh my God. So the artist has to come into my office, and my time is valuable and his time is valuable. We don't have 6 hours. So he comes in for 2-hour chunks at a time. We did 6 of those. It took 12 hours of recording to get 8 hours of material because of the stumbles. And him kind of rolling through. And it's human nature. After you screw up a line twice, you want to sort of take a running head start and get through it as fast as you can, which means we have to do it again anyway. So all of that. So I have 12 hours that I have to go through and edit all the stumbles. And sometimes it comes down to the granular, where I am literally sewing together a word because I can't understand either the front end or the back end on the take that I like. So I pull the front end out of a different take and sew it into the back end. And it takes freaking forever. And so I did all of that, James. My work was about 50 hours. His work was about 12 hours. That's way too much to have this much difficulty on freaking launch day. But I digress. I'm so delighted that you only put 6 hours into it and you get a beautiful audiobook, James.
Now, well, for the record, we can't say that it's a beautiful audiobook because neither you nor I has ever listened to any of my audiobooks.
You had to have listened to some of the first one just to see. Get out of here.
Never, not one time, not one time. I did, though. I listened to my most recent audiobook because I didn't record it. So I'm working on the sequel to The Chosen 12, and as I sat down to write the sequel, I'm like, I better double check what happened in the first one. And I certainly wasn't going to sit down and read it, so I asked them for a free copy of my own audiobook, and they sent it to me, and it was very well done. Definitely a voice that's not mine, so that was enjoyable.
Wait, you did not record that one?
No, that one requires voices and actual acting talent. They weren't going to let me get near that with a 10-foot pole. I'm lucky they let me write it. They definitely were not going to let me record that one.
Weren't you a little bit curious to try?
No, I am well aware of my limitations, Steve. I can barely record this terrible podcast with you. I wasn't going to waltz out there and ruin my own audiobook with my own stupid voice. So no, I let it go.
Yeah, but when you're writing the book, the characters are alive in your head. You know what they look like, you know what they sound like. Aren't you the best one to try to put a character to what you have in your head?
First of all, I have no idea what my characters look like. I was super vague on that on purpose. Think about this. I've got a book with 12 people left in the entire, 22 people, whatever it started out with. I'm giving out spoilers like crazy. Apparently they don't all make it down. But so you got 22 people left in existence. And if I sit there and describe these people, and I don't say that, for example, one of them has red hair. It's like, oh, so you just committed genocide against people with red hair. There will never be another red-haired human being in the human race. They have been purged from the gene pool.
Yeah.
Now expand that to every single quality you can imagine. And if I don't somehow get every one of those people in there, and then also make sure that they get through the filter down to the final 12 people, then I'm going to get some flack. So my kids on there are boys and there are girls, but there are no descriptions of what they look like at all. And that is just so that I could cover myself. Because you know what? This isn't my first day on the internet. I know how people react. I know how they take everything completely the wrong way. So I had to take a step back and watch out for that. And then what was I was going to rail against some other point of yours, but I don't remember how they sound. I have no idea how they sound. To be honest, when I was editing it, I play it back to myself, reading it out loud. I have an app that reads it, and it reads it in a woman's robot sounding voice at triple speed. So they all sound like female triple speed robots to me. That's what they sound like.
Wow, you're going Westworld now. Nice. Yeah. Boy, that's interesting. I would have thought, even despite all of your aw shucksness when it comes to minimizing your contribution to your own success, that you would have at least had some level of morbid curiosity, like what does this a-hole sound like when he's reading my book? Oh wait, that's me. I recognize that a-hole. But I can't believe that.
I just recently got so I could watch myself even on videos like this. For a long time, I could watch myself if I was making a YouTube video or if I was doing the recording, because I was in control. I could push the kill switch. But when I would go on an interview with the news somewhere where I wasn't in control, I would never ever watch myself. It just killed me. It's like, I don't want to see how I did. I can't go back and change that. There is nothing that's going to come from this but angst and unhappiness. So I just moved on with my life. I don't think I've ever watched a single one of the interviews I've done on TV news. I've never listened to any of the radio interviews. I just avoided it. It's gonna be a bad time, Steve. It's gonna be a bad time. But I've recently I did that stand-up comedy routine. I did watch some of that. So I'm getting better with some of these things. I think I just care a little bit less. I've realized that I've set the bar so low that nobody really expects anything from me. And if I can even get any words out of my mouth without fumbling over it or throwing up, then I think I've probably exceeded expectations.
Sure. Well, just to close that loop, what did you think of yourself doing comedy?
And again, I didn't watch the whole thing just because I was up there for 13 freaking minutes. Like, why was I talking
God
for so long?
forbid.
But
James
anyway.
Breakwell takes 13 minutes out of his life. Okay.
Oh, but the one thing in the snippet I watched, I mean, my delivery was fine. I didn't look afraid, but I swayed. Like, I'm swaying back and forth like a tree in the wind. But I don't know what the alternative is. Like, when you're standing up there, I feel like if I didn't move at all, it would look weird. If I pace around, it would look weird. But it looks really weird when I stand in place with my feet planted and just kind of sway back and forth. So I think the conclusion is I'm just weird, and that's how it's going to be.
Well, you can work that into your act next time. If you know that that's your tendency and it's hard to weed that out.
Well, what do you do when you talk? Do you pace around, or what do you do when you're in front of a crowd?
A little bit. There's two things you have to be aware of. One is your feet, the other is your hands. So to kind of sort of be aware constantly, and after you do it enough, it's second nature. But there are points that you want to emphasize, and so you move during points of emphasis. And then as you're setting up exposition or backstory, you sort of lay back and hold still. But the other thing is, what do you do with your hands? Like you can tell by the podcast, my hands are always moving. I like it better when I'm holding a mic than when I have a lav mic, because then that gives one hand something to do, and then the other hand can kind of do whatever gestures it's going to do. I am less in control of my hands than I am of my feet. But I will say, just in a nutshell, when you want to hit something hard, move. When you don't, just hold still.
Gotcha. So basically everything I said was meant to not be hit hard. It was 13 minutes of unimportantness, which seems accurate.
Well, if you're swaying, use that. Now that you know, you can sort of make fun of yourself and put everyone at ease so they're not whispering to their partner like, what's wrong with this guy? Is he having some kind of seizure up there? Do we need to intervene? But just talk about it. Just do like a Jodie Foster, I'm a tay in the wind. Like, do a little Nell up there. Really get the woke crowd going on your side.
I really didn't think the swaying was that big of a deal. I thought it was a little bit weird. It might not be so great to structure an entire comedy special around it. Look at me slightly shifting my weight. Isn't this hilarious? Isn't this the kind of content you paid out here to see? A guy you never heard of.
Use your newness. Like, it's a 20-second throwaway line, but it takes care of everyone thinking, boy, this dude's really nervous. Like, you just sort of address it and then throw it away and move on with your life.
Next time, I'm just going to pace around like a caged tiger. Like, they don't just have all this pent-up aggression. They don't know what I'm going to do.
Watch Richard Lewis. Watch Richard Lewis do comedy, and he does that. He's running his hands through his hair. His whole thing is about anxiety, and he paces like a madman, like a baboon, back and forth.
Gotcha. Well, here on this, we don't even get that chance. We just sit here. We just sit here planted on our butts, talking to each other, and nobody can tell whether we look nervous or not because these episodes never make it out to air. And as I say that, I'm checking my backup recorder to make sure. So as of right now, we're 18 minutes in. Both my primary and my backup recorder both appear to be going. So when we get to the end of this and this doesn't record, I'm probably going to break something.
Wasn't it The Who that sang the song, I Won't Be Fooled Again? I think that's possibly happening to you right now, James. And frankly, even if this does make it out, Judy P's the only one that's going to see it anyhow. So really, we're covered in either direction.
You know, she did confirm the other day that she actually reads the newsletter, so I don't even need to do the podcast. I could just email her directly and cut out the middleman.
Yeah, but now she's got me on the podcast. She doesn't have that in your newsletter.
Nobody comes here for you. Nobody comes here for me either. Nobody comes here, period. I mean, that's the kind of drawing power we have.
You know, I have a Patreon account for my other podcast, and one of the contributors, one of the patrons, wrote to me and said, you know, I subscribe to Breakwell's newsletter, so I might as well give you the same amount. And so they pledged the same amount to me.
That kills me inside. I'd rather we both get 0 than we both get 5. I don't want to help you.
I thought that would make you feel good, that you were first in line for this person's $5.
Well, I should take it that way. When I say I'd rather we both get 0, I absolutely don't mean that. I need your $5 so badly.
Even if that benefits Olivas in some weird way.
Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. The Patreon thing, apparently that is the way to go for podcasts as opposed to newsletters where you probably want to stick with Substack. So at the comedy thing beforehand, Jen Fulweiler, it was her tour and she was the headliner, like she, as a perk for her subscribers, if you were paid at a certain level, you got to meet her beforehand, face to face. So I don't know if you offer that service for the commute. I think you've been meeting with Judy P and all these people for free since there's literally no demand on your time. I don't know. What would your paid tier be? How much would somebody have to fork over to meet face to face with the Steve Olivas?
When I was on the road, I would have people come out and meet me all the time. Like, that was not an uncommon thing, and we would have a beer or a soda or something, and that was that. So nothing, 0 is the correct answer. But has Judy P actually met you?
No, she's never, as far as I know, she has not been in the U.S. in the time that we have been following each other.
See, she has met, I believe 2 times. She has met me and just 1 time. She met me and Mrs. Steve. I think I told you the story when she tried to meet me a second time but got hung up in traffic, and she was going to get out of the car and run on the freeway so that she could catch me before I left. But her husband cajoled her into staying in the car, that I wasn't worth risking life and limb.
And both of those times were in Canada, were they not?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she stays safely north of the border, and for good reason. We've got coyotes roaming around here. We've got emus running around. Did you see my Twitter post about the emu?
I did not.
Okay. So there was a farm over in Illinois where somebody let out a bunch of emus, and I thought that maybe it was like an animal rights activist, and no, it was just some guy being a dick. He's like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I let out all these emus? And so they've been running around for months, literally months, and apparently they've caught all of them except for one. And I didn't know any of this. So in our family group chat on Facebook, my mom posts this picture. She doesn't post a picture. She just sends a message that says, "The last emu," and we're like, "What? Is there a picture?" And then she apparently she's trying to drive at the same time. So she I assume safely pulls over and sends it. And sure enough, she sends a picture of the emu. And I said, did you mean the lost emu or the last emu, as in there were others? And sure enough, yes, it was the whole one. Yeah, this was the last emu. Apparently, she spotted it because there was a police officer who did a U-turn in front of her and turned on its lights, and she thought he was coming for her, and he wasn't. He was going for the emu. These things are legend, apparently. They've been popping up all over. Like this was like way out in the country, but like they've been popping up in town and just all over the place. And then you get your classic fights on Facebook where somebody would post it and somebody would be like, don't post it, they're gonna catch it and eat it, you gotta let the emu be free. And so you got the fights between the animal rights activites and all this. And I think you do, I mean, you can sell emu eggs, but I think mainly you eat them. But I think you want to catch it because I don't know that, I mean, it's a bird from Australia. I don't think it's built to survive an Illinois winter. And if it's gonna die anyway, maybe it should die someplace where somebody can get some emu burgers. That's just my thought. Anyway, my understanding is they're very mean and very fast. So, and actually, I believe after that incident, after she spotted it, after the cop went after it, I believe it still got away. So if you are in Central Illinois, watch out. That emu's on the loose.
For a wily emu.
Yes.
On the lamb. Hey, I encourage everybody to read up or watch videos on the Great Emu Wars from Australia. Do you know what that is? What that references?
Yes.
It's insane. It's insane. The Australian army got involved to try to mow down these emus, and they couldn't kill them. They lost the war to the emus. They gave up.
Wasn't it something the bullets just went right through them, which I don't entirely understand, but apparently they're just mostly empty space inside?
They were 50 millimeter bullets that they were, like out of a big machine gun on top of a Jeep. And it took I think they were saying it took 3 hits to bring down one of these freaking emus. And the problem is if you aim high, it's so hard to hit their neck or their head because that's a small target. So you got to aim low. And the emus will scatter once you start shooting. And so you get 1,000 of these things running at you, and you can only take down a dozen of them before they overtake you. It's just the most bizarre story, and it's all true. The emu wars.
I mean, that's impressive because I mean, a 50 millimeter bullet, and I might be wrong here. I think it's about the size of it's about the length of my hand, and it's made to disable like vehicles. Like this is the kind of bullet you use to shoot an enemy jeep. They were using them on emus, and it didn't work out. So anyway, that's what they're up against in Illinois. So thoughts and prayers for them, and good luck to everybody.
Well, speaking of good luck, we have to bid everyone adieu as well as buena suerte because we are out of time, James. And is this episode actually going to go up? What are your odds?
Everything shows recording still. I will know in a moment when I hit the stop button. But fingers crossed, I think people will see and hear this one.
Until we meet again, hopefully this will tide you over for the few weeks it takes for us to actually pull this off another time. But let me walk us out. This is Steve Olive. It's Dr. Steve for James the Exploding Unicorn Breakwell saying thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Be on the lookout for wily emus on the land. Oh my God, 2 wrongs can make a right.